We're back, guys, and you'll take a look at this, and you'll say, wow, MVP got off to a great start. Well, the game did not end in the same fashion. Even though they got 2 kills early on to Keen, they just could not close it out because they were scared for other reasons as well.
Unfortunately, it seems like getting ADD ahead and turning that into a victory was something they had in their minds, but in a moment like this, sadly, overextension, going for the turret dive on Stopwatch, Shen Ultimate, and QSS Syndra was turned around in a pretty big fashion. MVP actually still gold lead, still a lot of advantages after this play, but that was the end of the good moments for the side of MVP. Afreeca Freecs just slowly and surely got more and more farm onto their funneled mid laner. That was, of course, the Xayah being played by Aiming. Took the Baron, closed out the game. Too easy for Afreeca in a game where MVP should have had the victory.
Tushin picks up the Baron by himself, and then, well, this was the end of the game. The big engage out of Spirit on the Rakan, actually. Not who you would normally see playing the Rakan, but then the Xayah, she was also pretty fed as we were nearing 40 minutes at this point. And, well, it was just one push with the Baron. That's all it took. Afreeca were able to take game 1.
Bit of a gift for them, honestly. They should have been made to work for it if they were going to close it out. But Afreeca Freecs lose early, win late. Not their strategy in previous months or previous seasons, but their strategy in recent moments here for the Afreeca Freecs. Looking at the damage dealt graph, you see 17,000 most on the Xayah. And look at the gold graph, it was all MVP, but they could never grow past about a 4,000 gold lead, and they mismanaged it when they needed to actually make it count.
Yep, right there at 18 minutes. That's where it went all the other way, and Spirit on the Rakan is going to pick up the MVP. Not what you would normally see him playing or picking up MVP points on.
Well, 009, he had one mission. Was to get in there and dominate MVP. And you know what? It looked like it was going to happen. Just like every James Bond film, there was a lot in the early and mid where you're like, oh, is he going to do it? He was able to do it. So thank you very much. License to Thrill comes through from Spirit, and Afreeca win game number 1.
Yep. Lots on the minds of MVP. Yondu, he's like, well, I picked Skarner and 4 people build QSS. What the hell am I supposed to do in this game? We'll see what they decide to pick and ban, at least going into game number 2.
That's what's going on in game number 2. Going to be an Aatrox ban to open up, so seems like ADD counter-picking or trying to go for a skill matchup might not happen in the top side. You don't see any other adjustments because you would imagine that MVP is going to have to respect strong picks from Afreeca, maybe even ban Rakan blue side to deny Xayah Rakan, and just Tushin on Rakan in general, whether the funnel is going to happen or not. And there it is, so Rakan ban. Always the choice against Afreeca. Some teams you solo ban the Xayah. Against Afreeca, you solo ban the Rakan.
Zoe, this time is going to be banned out once again by Afreeca. Don't want to give that one over to Ian, his most played, 2-2 so far.
Have you got the name of the song yet, Valdez?
Well, I was told that it's Pick and Ban Song is the name of the song.
Google that one, guys. You'll find it.
Yeah. You might be able to find that one on Google.
No, you will not. But
you could try, though.
A lot going to be left open here. The Nocturne banned on blue side because Afreeca will for sure pick it up for Spirit, and MVP doesn't want to take it themselves. What do they want to take? Because Sejuani, the usual pick for Yondu, has been target banned away from Afreeca. And actually, it seems like Yondu's going to increase the pace a little bit and look for the Camille.
Yeah, I like it. It was banned in game 1 by Afreeca. Second ban before the Sejuani. But this time having to mix it up, as Talia is a red side ban you see all the time. Swain being hovered here.
Do you just take Swain Alistair and have a different type of flex going on? Swain, of course, in the bot lane has been pretty formidable and is very strong in the meta against bruisers. Aiming has been playing mostly non-AD carries, was playing the funneled Xayah in game number 1. Alistair would be a big pick for Tushin with the Rakan down. They prefer not to have him on any sort of healing champion, but why not the Shen again, as Shen was one of the champions who's made it through picks and bans. We'll see if this is a duo. If Taunt hits, it does actually still act as a conduit for that Swain passive. Well, let's see if that's actually going to be the matchup for the bot lane of Afreeca.
Where's that Morgana? Haven't seen it just yet. But they're hovering the Ezreal here, which should be down on the bottom side, although they change it up into the Pyke to start things off.
Do they take the Morgana with it? Because Pilot certainly wasn't the problem. He had some nice bindings in the previous game, and it would allow Pyke and Camille to be a death squad. So I would really like Morgana at this pick. Ezreal is similar, but of course will not have quite the same safety in the laning phase. We want to find roam out of the Pyke. What's the deal going to be? All right, so MVP don't quite go for fully accentuating the Pyke by allowing Morgana, who's just impossible to turret dive, especially post 8 minutes when the stopwatch comes online. They'll go for the Ezreal. That means Morgana has slipped through the first round of picks for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, and you can tell why. You see the stats down there at the bottom. I think it was 25 KDA, 35% of the damage done. Pilot is really good at Ezreal specifically, and he has very, very high KDA overall for the AD carry position. So they do pick that up. Vladimir picked up here on the other side for Afreeca.
Again, more likely that Aiming will be jumping on the Vladimir. He's 2-0 so far this season, and Kramer has been playing it as well. When you see an Anivia ban, that basically shouts, I'm going to play mid lane Swain and not bot lane Swain. So seems like we're getting the roles firm up a little bit on the side of Afreeca.
Everything begins to make sense for their side. No funnel this time around with the Rakan gone, as well as the Talia. Darius also, MVP. They're having nightmares from game 1. They say no thank you. Even the 0 and 2 Darius can take us down.
I wonder if Keen would play his first Mundo game. The answer very emphatically is no, because they'll ban away Mundo, despite Darius and Aatrox being banned. Most teams at Aiming's pick would first pick it here on the second round on the red side. Would have been the first Mundo on the season, but it's a champion I think you have to have in your wheelhouse, so kind of a surprising ban for me from the side of Afreeca.
Yeah, there's not much else that Keen has played outside of Aatrox and Darius. A total of 11 games on those two champions. Outside of that, he's played Jace and Jax for a total of 4 games, 1-on-1 on both of those. Gonna wait and see for that pick for Keen, as we will have Skarner locked in.
Really holding on to Keen's pick. He's been counterpicked a lot, so I guess maybe he's overdue for having a winning lane matchup. The Aatrox in good matchups now a couple of days ago, maybe even a couple of weeks ago. And a little bit more of a struggle for Keen in recent games. He just wants to be different to game 1, where he was having no fun at all. Our MVP going to give us some new stuff. It's cool to see the Pyke, even if it's not with the Morgana. Morgana's still available, and hello, we find an old counter pick. In fact, a Kuro favorite. The Vel'Koz into the Swain to try to outrange him in the mid lane, and also just disintegrate all the bruisers who are going to be coming into the range of those lasers.
Thinking about actually the Trundle here, which means that the Camille would almost definitely go up into the top side.
Would imagine so, but leave both options open. Trundle against low power pre-6 junglers like a Skarner is usually the way you go, but if ADD's back on the Camille that he played quite a bit last season and also last year, they have plenty of time to decide. MVP is waiting on Afreeca's top lane pick. Could be the Shen, but traditionally is not. Almost always Shen support this season. And will it be that Jax? You mentioned Jax and Jace. They'll go for the Jax in this particular case. They're saying, hey, if it's going to be Camille, Jax has that fun skill matchup, and Keen seems confident to go into it.
Jax can have a fun time if you're playing up against Crazy's Camille, who loves to hook shot into double buff, 1 level ahead. Fed Jax when he doesn't have flash. Never gonna forget that play.
No, I'm gonna say we're gonna be referencing that one off the cuff
every time we get this matchup, I'm just gonna be like, remember that time that Crazy messed up that time?
It's probable that ADD will do better than Crazy, you know?
I would have to imagine. He looked pretty good on the Kled. He didn't really have too much of a fight, though, as the Darius was so far behind that it was just basically ADD pushing and Darius trying to stop the bleeding, funnily enough.
We have a lot of poke with Ezreal and also the Vel'Koz. We'll talk about the Vel'Koz and why it's strong as we get into game, but has been a favorite of Kuro in the reverse matchup. So Ian kind of turning the tables on Kuro this time. Still some proactivity in the draft, but will MVP be able to put those dominoes together, actually play the game of chess that they seem to abandon halfway through in game number 1? That, to me, is the bigger question.
I'm sure the coaches had lots of keywords they had to say to MVP after game 1. Don't be scared, play confident, play to your winning conditions, but they didn't really do that too well in game number 1, so they'll have to turn this around here against Afreeca. I mean, they were close to even winning a game against Afreeca, who we thought was very, very strong early on in the LCK, but they're kind of wallowing here at 5th place right now.
And we're looking for a good early game performance from Afreeca, because recently they've actually been second in the early game against many of our bottom expected teams. So Afreeca Freecs, when it comes to the meta, when it comes to even the play, have a lot to clean up, even based on game number 1.
So the game is ready, guys. We're just about ready to jump into game number 2 of Afreeca versus MVP. The countdown has started. Let's jump into it right now.
생성까지 30초 남았습니다.
2-0 to MVP in terms of the fan count. I'm excited to see if Max on a Hook champion can do his best Mad Life impression, the former protege of Mad Life. We call him Max Life when he's really able to pop off. See if he can have a good start. Ooh, Pilot's got a bundle of gold.
Looks like he got 40 gold.
That's the one you feel bad about, actually. Is that the lowest you can get from the bundle?
It's actually a weird amount because he hit 2 Qs.
Because one gives
Klepto.
5 gold, and then the bundle gave 40, I believe.
Yeah.
If you get if you actually pick something up, you don't get the 5 gold. But if you don't actually get a pilfer, then you get the item. So I think he got the lowest roll.
Yeah, he did.
Wow.
That's a feels bad man moment. Can't even get a second potion if he wanted to. Although, I mean, with teleport Ezreal, he'll probably just save up for that tier. But yeah, 40 golds, 45 total on the second queue.
You know what? He's on the side of MVP, and if we learned one thing from game number 1, I bet he didn't pay his taxes.
No, he didn't. And, well, he's getting bitten for it now.
IRS is coming for him. No big gold bonuses anymore.
Oh. Next one will be 40 as well.
Yep. That's what happens.
Player taxes.
That's what happens for MVP. Speaking of taxes, Spirit wants to tax this Rift Scuttle.
And with Jax Keen coming down first from the top side, means that he had to give that one away. ADD not confident to be on the roam here.
Mentioned it in game number 1, but over on the Pro TV days, we do have the Scuttle counter on the top. So you notice next to the turrets near the team names, it is 1-0 in honor of football season to the side of Afreeca Freecs. Oh, 2-0. A very early 2-0 here.
Yeah, looks good. I was just saying that it wasn't a feel-good moment in the top side because the hook shot pushed that one creep in range of the turret, which took it out, so he missed. Got a favorable trade up in the top side, but...
Can I ask you a question, Valdez?
Yeah, sure. Always, Papa.
As our very quiet early game with farming jungles is happening, what was your experience for the Korea versus Germany match? Because I have some stories from that one. What was your experience? Because obviously a big story that Korea knocked out Germany, the first team knocked out Germany from group stages since, what, 1938, I believe, was the year. So the 3rd ever World Cup. That was a big event here. What was your findings? What was your night like?
Well, I was with a group of a bunch of Koreans that, even though Korea got knocked out in 3rd place, they were still ultra happy. It felt like they won the World Cup, you know? Everybody was going crazy.
Were you out and about? Were you at a house party? Like, what are we talking here?
A bit of a house party, I could say, and it was something like that. Yeah, everybody felt like they won the World Cup. It was feels good across the board. Everybody was just going nuts, so...
And the football season, because I was casting, as it started, it was a long night, if you remember, there over at OGN. And then we got to local area, which is an area with a lot of bars in Seoul. And as we walked to our chosen bar for the nightcap, no nightcaps here in mid lane, everyone's just trading. But as we walked for our nightcap, every bar is showing it on a massive screen, and it's nice weather, so you know there's no like doors closed or anything. Everyone is so hyped. Amy's going to have to use his blood pool every chance, literally just walking outside in the open air, people are just losing their minds. We're just getting close. But like you say, even though they were eliminated and didn't matter what they did, every time anything good happened, fans would lose their mind. And that sort of enthusiasm, you only really see it, say, an LCK Grand Final or a big match in Esports, was really cool to see. So the passion's certainly there from the Korean fans.
Yeah, you know, we had a little bit of a talk about football or soccer, whatever you want to call it, and how I wasn't too happy with the acting, the complaining, but overall I came to just get used to it. I'm like, every single team does it, so I'm like, well, I'm not a big fan of that, so if I can just ignore that, I guess it's okay.
I feel like you spent enough time like adjacent to football now that I can ask this question. If you remember, like a lot of like multiplayer games like League of Legends have been rated by traditional 10 scales years ago, and the game changes, and people like meme about what score it was given out of 10. What score would you give football now that you've kind of been around it long enough to give it a score on a 10 scale, as if it was a video game?
You know, you know, after understanding that the acting, the complaining, and the weird rule set and the very long matches are just part of the game.
Number out of 10, Valdez.
I'd have to give it a solid 4.5 out of 10. That's my solid rating there. I think that's, you know, pretty good given the circumstances.
What would you say are like the positives and negatives? You have to list a bit of words next to the number.
Well, I like the goaltending. I feel like the goaltending is very high skill.
It's called goalkeeping, but okay, we'll go with goaltending, sure.
We call it goaltending in hockey.
I know,
so.
I was going to say, I knew that was the hockey term. So you're a fan of the goaltending. Go on.
And, you know, I feel like it's very high skill. I feel like the meta is pretty good. You know, you generally get like a really tall guy who can jump around and flail around and do a bunch of stuff. And he never really gets a chance to act or complain. So I'm really happy, you know, that he's really the only one playing a solid game behind all these other guys that are flailing around like they just, you know, broke their leg or something.
Well, you'll be happy to know that I was actually my university's goaltender when I played football at university.
That's good. We can be friends now, Mom.
Good. If I was one of those outfield players that fell apart, then you would not be a fan.
Yeah.
No acting as a goaltender.
You can't. You don't have time. It's just crunch time whenever the ball gets near your net. That's what they call it, right?
Crunch time, yes.
No, not. They call it a net, right? It's called the net.
I mean, sure, yeah.
Or the goal.
Yeah.
Do they call it the goal?
Sure.
Okay. I feel like you're not.
The net that you're goaltending,
Yeah.
Go on. Just shut up, Max.
That's right. That's right, Atlas. Just shut up.
I'm actually talking about Pyke in this particular case. I feel like Shut Up Nami was the last thing we had. Now we got Shut Up Pyke.
I just know that if Atlas is watching the cast right now, he's like, what? Come on. His reaction would actually be really funny.
I do think we have to start the Shut Up Pyke movement because Nami had to shut up before, and Pyke is really just too loud.
Hashtag Shut Up Pyke.
You know what we need? The next patch notes, I don't know if they're already in 8.13. I know in 8.12 it hasn't been fixed. You know how Riot likes their kind of very dry joke patch notes?
Yeah.
I want it to say Pyke was told to use his inside voice. Because he's definitely not using his inside voice on the Rift.
He just wants to be the star, you know? He's doing a little bit of overacting, saying, hey, take a look at me. My W isn't really that important, but you take a look at it. They were looking for the pick there on Takuro, speaking of which, and he is forced to flash.
Nothing has happened in this game, Valdez.
It was a good reaction.
But now we have to call it the most important thing. It's at past 8 minutes. The stopwatch is online. That means that when they try action, it's less likely to happen.
Well, there's only one stopwatch right now. It's on the Swain.
Makes sense.
Very uncommon, not for Swain, but it's uncommon to have this few stopwatches.
Troll Ward on the top side, so you'd imagine ADD would be able to actually take over this lane and make things happen. So far, being very respectful and, again, maybe mindful of what happened with Crazy. But we're going to continue to farm up, so we might say, okay, what can we kind of tell you about the comps? Big one that might surprise people if you only watch other regions, the Vel'Koz pick, which has become semi-regular in Korea. Big thought is, with the Nivea banned away, one of the best ways to counter the bruisers and the mages that dominate bot lane, the shorter range champions, is Vel'Koz, because he does the percentage health damage, he has a lot of poke, he can definitely just do a lot of damage to Swain out of threat range with his ultimate as well, so it's become a kind of homebrew counterpick to the meta, but specifically the Swain in the mid lane.
You know what we haven't been seeing a lot of is Brands. You spoke about percentage health damage. You were actually predicting maybe we would see him in the top lane from time to time, deal with bruisers, maybe even in the bottom lane, but we really just haven't seen much of him at all. I suppose he has his other downsides to have that be part of the reason. We're going to have a 2-on-2 in the top side to flash on into ADD, and, well, Spirit says, never mind, there's a Trundle in the way.
I believe he also would have definitely flash ulted, and it didn't go off, so I guess it was just out of range, and then got the extra information and went away. So Spirit just kind of donated flash for all of that. That's unfortunate. But that's just the kind of game we're in, Valdez.
Yeah. Yandu says, thank you very much. ADD is like, okay, I still have my flash and my TP. I'm totally fine.
Hopefully that means ADD will push a bit and try to assert dominance in his lane. As asserting dominance is how they started off some good news in game number 1. All the side lanes on the side of MVP are ecstatic because they can walk up a lot more and not be afraid of the Skarner flash ultimate.
Did you just say Skarner?
No, I said Skarner, but
okay.
I think I probably went a little bit weird on my K. That sounds, I don't know what accent I'd be trying to do if I came up with Skarner.
Skarner.
I guess that's New York
it's like
or something.
a little bit of New York.
How would you tell your New York friends about Skarner?
Anyone see that great Skarner game before?
Our viewers might not know, but you are actually New Yorkian, right?
Yeah, I am New Yorkian.
Shut up.
Definitely. It's definitely not what we call each other, New Yorkians.
What would you call each other?
I guess it would depend on what part of the city you come from. You know, either you're from the city, which is Manhattan, or you're from Queens, the Bronx, Brooklyn, Staten Island.
You don't strike me as someone from Brooklyn.
No, I'm not. I was told that after I moved out here, I actually lost a lot of my accent.
I feel like it shines through in some words, but I agree. I think a lot of people find it hard to place.
Yeah.
When people tell me about Valdez's accent, they're like, I like how he speaks, but I can't. They don't really have a lot more to add. From in terms of specifics. As Keen actually is able to interrupt the second part of the hook shot, there's going to be a lot of damage.
Yeah, he's going in right now. Not going to commit to an altar. Actually, another leap inside. Getting close to that turret, and ADD getting very low. A very advantageous trade over to Keen means that ADD is out of there.
Keen actually played that really well. Sort of thing that Jack's players, I'm sure, Shinshin somewhere, if he inspected that clip, that was nicely done. The fact that it was such a short-range hook shot meant that he was actually still in range of his counter-strike. That was the outplay through that passage, and he gets an exchange of damage. Definitely not a trade. He just kind of gives the damage and says, didn't you enjoy that? I didn't hear the answer from Camille. She's been talking a lot this game. You've heard, right?
Yeah.
She does like to talk a lot. With her Q,
I feel like she kind of just mumbles the whole game, you know? Nobody's really listening to her, but Jackson's just like, be quiet, Camille, the entire time. Never gets the attention she wants.
What's the name of the Batman villain that also, there's a Batman villain I'm thinking of now that maybe Camille could be a proxy for. Someone can tweet it at me as, Spirit's back.
Is he gonna flash in and not ult again? That's the question. Comes on in. Here's Tushin to help out. A 3-on-2. That teleport is gonna come in finally, but ADD getting very low. The shield, though, keeps him alive for a long time. First blood, though, to the Jax. He looking for it again. Pilot too low here. He's gonna get taken out. Vel'Koz trying to disintegrate everything. And finally, the Comet is gonna take him out. Kuro looking for that last one. With the E, is gonna get the double kill. And down he does go. A 3-for-1 in favor of Afreeca.
Damn, you see why the Shen can be so powerful. Gets first roam, and they also got first roam out of the mid lane. Both those things happening is too much for MVP to bear. Ends up being a successful game in spite of Skarner's flash being down. Aiming able to push up the wave, but that's a huge skirmish lead for the Afreeca Freecs.
Look at that.
Look at this, very nice teleport.
Noticing the situation on the map, knows that they got 3 kills in the push in the bottom side because aiming never moved, and then they just TP bot and get first blood turret over to Jackson and Vlad. That's fantastic.
So level lead for ADD and the counter-strike down. So the Keen's first and a mistake, but it's all in service of income Skarner. It turns out Skarner ult and Shen. It's going to be a lot of threat to begin with. Keen actually has to flash because there's a chance that ADD could have found a way out. But again, it's hard to talk about an out roam when it comes to, say, a Shen versus the Pyke, because Pyke obviously didn't have the ability to join, but to also have Kuro get there first, you need to respect that the enemy team has Shen. I need to first roam. Not easy for a Vel'Koz to first roam, but he should have more push in the early game. He needed to be there, he wasn't. Ends up being a nice little lead to the Afreeca Freecs.
Pilot, not the best mechanics we've seen. I mean, he's 3-1 on the Ezreal. He is a fantastic Ezreal player. Super high KDA, 25, I believe. But that fight was not good. He went in, Arcane shifted, missed a couple of Qs, and then just disintegrated. And he's got the Vel'Koz on his team. So, yeah, not the best fight. Didn't have that Ezreal damage.
Wow, Keen, I guess, very close to Trinity Force, as Skarner, Spirit just gave up a Rift Scuttler. You don't see that often. 4-2's the score, by the way. This is a goal fest in this game.
Way too many goals. What was the highest scoring game that was played? Do you
I know England had their highest amount of goals.
It was like 5-1.
No, England got way more than that.
Really?
They had a lot of goals, actually, in that game. I actually forget the number, but it was huge. So I don't have an answer to you, but it was a lot. From good old England.
You know who I really liked out of all the teams that played was actually Senegal. I thought they were really aggressive and fun to watch. You know, they didn't do a lot of crying and laying down on the field. So for me, they were very refreshing, but unfortunately, they did not make it into the round of 16.
So you know what their coach probably told them? Just like we were insulting the macro from MVP in game #1, maybe the coach is like, this is a spot where you could have cried and rolled around more.
Yeah.
We might have won more games.
I feel like that does actually happen. Like, it's part of the game so much that they're like, hey, you weren't acting well enough here. Like, you need to work on your holding your ankle macro, actually. You're not doing very well.
Well, I have 2 passports. I definitely identify as an Australian far more than a British person, but one of my teams is still in. I lost Australia, they were eliminated, but England's still in, so I guess I'm British now for World Cup reasons. Overall, if you ask me, I will always say Australian, but, you know, it's good to have a team in the running.
So where do I stand then? I was born in America to Cuban and Irish parents, and I live in Korea.
How do you feel about cigars?
Where are all those 4 countries?
How do you feel about cigars?
I mean, they're good. I'm talking about the World Cup here and the fact that none of those countries are in.
If we're being honest about the World Cup, I'm actually not a big World Cup fan because I follow club football, and the World Cup is the place that my club players go to get injured for 6 months and miss the club matches. So, you know, I understand the romanticism of country versus country, but I get all my warfare in the LCK. I don't need the World Cup.
Who's your club? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, football club.
Yeah.
Most clubs you'll see their first initial, then FC, and that's football club.
Oh, okay.
I am a Manchester United fan.
That's what it means.
That's what it means. Manchester United fan, so most people hate me or really like me based on that.
You just gained a lot of haters today.
I did,
I
for
shouldn't
sure.
have asked you.
Well, I also got haters for liking the far superior crunchy peanut butter. I don't know why there's all these smooth peanut butter people out there.
Well, here we go. Vel'Koz, see you later. Oh, is he going to go down? He finally does, as well 3 and even 4 members, as Keen was getting close, are able to take out the Vel'Koz. That is one of the things, as you will notice, his flash is about to get off cooldown.
Really crunchy engaged by Afreeca, and they're still pushing.
Oh boy, Kuro, he might just go down here. Does have the stopwatch just in time. He's going to pop his ultimate, and the E comes in even. Can't quite kill Yondu, but the True Shot Barrage sails wide, and Kuro lives.
Does live. It did not look possible, but stopwatch is very strong. The only one in the game, used very well. Nazonia's no doubt going to join it. Aiming can side lane very happily on the Vladimir. They're going to get a Drake as well. A matching Drake, a nice gold lead. Definitely far flung from the game they just played in game #1.
Afreeca's having a good time with this one. They're getting their Swain and the Jax online. The Vlad isn't dying, which is always good. And the Skarner and the Shen have been very efficient and effective early on in the game. This is exactly what they've wanted so far.
Jax having the item lead is going to be helpful. I'm excited for perhaps some high-skill trades in the bot side when we eventually get Camille versus Jax. I'm guessing 8-13 is where Pyke will start using his inside voice. I'm really hoping so.
I hope so.
I was optimistic for 8-12, but I watched EULCS, and Pyke definitely was loud there.
It's a scary sound. Catches you off guard. It's actually kind of scary.
But let's see some Pyke plays, because we haven't really seen a sick bone skewer this game yet.
I mean, he's hit them, but he hasn't really committed, you know? Well, maybe we're making him nervous.
I think we are.
We're calling him out too much. And oh, see you later, Ezreal. Poor Pilot in this game is his turn to be bullied as he goes down. See you later, Max, too. As Afreeca pick up a couple of easy kills. Nice engage there by Tucson.
And this is what we're talking about in game one. What MVP lacking? Decisiveness. Aiming his flash ults. He knows his burst range. This Predator not even electrocute. He trusts in his damage. Goodbye, Ezreal. Another good move for Afreeca Freecs.
Well done to them, sitting at very pretty 3,500 gold here. Setting up for the Baron. They're not going to go for it here, of course, but they want to take out some turrets first.
And watch the replay, and the turret was about to go down for MVP. The transformation scam on the Miramana. Taunt flash into flash ult. Beautifully done, and this is why Vladimir is kind of the last of the remaining mages in the duo lane. Much less Rise recently. People prefer the marksman, but you can be so brazen with your engages. You have an escape, you have a lot of gap close, you have very good late game scaling as well. Vladimir kind of does it all, and until there are direct Vladimir nerfs, I think this will always be an option for our bot lane players.
The itemization too out of aiming is kind of cool. Oh, they're trying to get onto Kuro here, but actually the canceled disintegration ray. Kuro has Zonya's now. Shut up, Pyke. So no kill comes in onto Kuro.
MVP gonna keep pushing. They got a lot of turret damage onto top and mid, but that standing gold is actually what's separating the teams in many ways. If both those went down, be a much more parity in the game. I'm concerned about the Jax getting the free farm because we've seen Keen from behind kind of struggle for relevance but never be fully out of the game. This time he's ahead, and that's a very different proposition. He started the season in Korean national top lane of form, but has dropped away a little bit with his struggles. There's the turret, there's the gold lead, there's the Pyke, and from there at least, aiming will pick up side lane farm. Kind of wait for the next objective for both teams to fight over.
Oh boy. This is the cannon there to add insult to injury. At least the Vel'Koz so far has been pretty decent. You know, he's only died once, and that's when he got collapsed upon by 4 people without his flash. Against the Flash Skarner ultimate, sometimes you just got to give him away. Speaking of which, ADD, can he get that max range hook shot? He definitely can. He gets away.
So then Smite not going to actually pull you away from the hook shot. No, flash to flash and get him in the air. So not going to be ADD going down in this side. Very important item completion, and this is actually where MVP really want to fight. 2-item Ezreal, again, we know about that one, but the Merlinomicon being complete. They didn't have any healing reduction, so having healing reduction for the Swain is going to be necessary.
Oh. That was louder than ever just because it was right underneath the observer.
Maybe there's a bug where it's louder every time it's caught on camera. Wouldn't that be great?
Attention seeker Pyke.
That has to be a sick skin. He has like a loudspeaker that he throws at people. That's a good one, Valdez.
I like it, yeah. Sign me up, Riot. I'm ready to go.
My favorite one I ever proposed was hurdling Kassadin.
Hurdling?
Yeah, because he riff walks. It's kind of like hurdling.
Like he jumps over a hurdle?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah,
we haven't done Olympic skins in a while. That was the one I liked.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. It's like your fake laugh. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, gonna get the engage here on a max, but nothing comes of it as Spirit was a little bit behind, and ADD in a lot of trouble here, looking for that hook shot. The Predator Skarner comes in, forces that flash, but it looks like he's still gonna be hooked on in, and see you later, ADD, as he does go down no matter how much he can ult on in.
Not enough escapes. Spirit's flash back off cooldown, ends up being 1 for 0 on the side for Afreeca Freecs. Continue to trade up. Probably not gonna give them too much though. Vel'Koz poke, Vel'Koz push, Pilot and Ian are the ones they really need to gap close onto. So for now at least, see the siege is still on. Bone Skewer hits, Tucson jumps away. Jack's gonna try and split push through this, but man, it is frustrating to face the siege of MVP.
And they still got it. They're still pushing even from behind. 7-1, everybody's favorite score. And even so, even when they're down gold, MVP just pushing it in. You're going to have another Ocean Drake here. That's kind of anticlimactic.
But who do you laugh at with the 7-1? Because now Germany's eliminated. Do you laugh at Brazil or Germany? I guess it's up to the individual. We're going to watch the replay. This time, Vel'Koz fully disengaged. That's the problem, is that Vel'Koz can really hold the Swain accountable. But because the rest of the team disengaged, they just flash onto ADD and kill him. So that was the struggle there for MVP. They didn't have the coordination in game 1. Not the most coordination in that moment either. And they back away.
Thought maybe he could pull off some ridiculous escape with another hook shot after the ultimate usage, but no could do. And speaking of which, ADD, this time he doesn't have his flash, and Keen is coming in too. Spirit is here again with this ultimate, and ADD will go down again. 0-3 is the ADD in the top lane.
Now, the actual mechanics there aren't that interesting, but the one thing to tell you guys at home is that a little trick with the Skarner is that when you are reaching the end of the suppression, if you change which direction the Skarner is facing, you actually move the character behind you and get basically an extra 200 to 300 units of displacement. So if you're a Skarner player in solo queue, remember that you start with the suppression, then right at the end, as you know it's going to wear out, turn around, and you actually move the target further.
It's like Tail Whip, but it's actually useful. Unlike in Pokemon.
Which way the character's facing is very irrelevant most of the time in League of Legends. That's one of the few times it's actually a pretty important mechanic.
Skarner doing well this time. Got the right Sklurry. We saw the Knight's Vow second in game number 1. So we'll see what Spirit decides to pick up this time for Afreeca.
I'm really worried about the names that Keen is going to add to his Death Note. He is really, really powerful in this game. Again, a nice change from him having problems with being on the gray screen too much in recent games.
You'll notice that even though Swain started with the only stopwatch, we have a couple of other members on the side of Afreeca that have picked up a stopwatch. Even Spirit, who is going to take a really long time to get into Stoneplate and almost will definitely not pick that up.
And of course, if you look very closely and inspect it, as a seasoned stopwatch user, you can see these ones are legit. These cost 600. They're full price. There's no discounts on these ones.
You get your magnifying glass out for
Yep,
Papa?
that's right. It's 3 extra pixels.
Well, here we go. Spirit's really fast, and he got the Swain right in the middle of the fight. Ian never even had a chance to get his ultimate down. They're pulling Keen into the fight.
Whoa!
Here comes aiming. Can he actually get anyone on the back of this? Nice parallel comes in. He nearly kills the both of them on the back foot. There's only going to be 1 kill, but a hugely won fight to the side of Afreeca.
And the thing is, getting in there and DPSing down more members means Baron or multiple turrets are more possible for the side of Afreeca, so it's still worth it to give up your flash in that scenario as aiming, because they walk up to the Baron and they know that MVP is largely far away.
Two-shot barrage comes in. They get a nice amount of vision, at least, but Camille coming from behind. It's going to have to be the Miracle Seal. Trundle is too far away. The smite comes in. Max even almost dies on his way out, and they're looking for him now. But actually, Afreeca just going to take the Baron and walk away.
Afreeca make a very smart Baron call. Again, the play from aiming, smart, even though it looks silly to give up so much with so little kill secure chance. Watching the replay, remember what we talked about. MVP should be the Vel'Koz, being able to poke out, being able to answer. But the Vel'Koz gets sieged and instantly popped. They don't have wards on their flank. MVP, you're pushing up with no control ward on the bottom side. That's the side the Skarner came from. Unfortunately, that was the side that was being hugged by the Vel'Koz. So a positioning error from Ian. Aiming rushes in, gets, as you saw, the Hemo Plague onto aiming. Onto Yondu. That's the important one, onto the Trundle. Meant there would be no smite. Easy smite for Spirit, easy Baron for Afreeca Freecs.
You guys remember last game where the Skarner was on the red side once again, and 4 members of Afreeca from behind built QSS. Nobody on the side of MVP has built the QSS. Even Ian, I know he had to get that Morellonomicon, deal with the Swain. If he's not going to have the QSS, at least have better positioning, as you were touching on before.
Pike noticed and didn't want you to say, so he shouted for a little bit there.
Yeah.
But your point still came through. I don't have a problem with not building QSS against Skarner early. If you feel like, okay, let's fight, let's get damage
We're
items.
almost at 30 minutes here.
I agree. I'm saying as a basic point, I think people overbuy an early QSS and interrupt damage timings for QSS too often. I don't always agree with it, but I agree that in this game, as you start to fall behind, they're not actually putting down control wards and making smart plays. They're getting flanked by the Skarner. So this is where it's like double negative, and that's not a positive for MVP.
Fortunately for MVP, there hasn't been much positive to talk about. I feel like this is one of the series where a lot of the things that they've been doing wrong have been kind of obvious. You know, it's not like, oh, we just got outplayed and we lost to a better team here. It's kind of just like, oh, well, they made a lot of mistakes. And it's unfortunate because they certainly had decent drafts and ways to win these games that they just haven't been able to capitalize on.
I just think 7 teams in our league win game number 1, and that's kind of the struggle. Maybe 6, but there's more than 5 teams, I think, that win game number 1 with how far ahead they were. That's disappointing stuff for MVP, who's trying to be one of those teams in the middle, trying to be a contender in the top 5.
Yeah, I mean, you say 7, but MVP is currently in 7th, so I guess that's where the line is drawn after all. As this game, I mean, it's a run away from MVP for sure. Afreeca have been playing very solidly. Game 1, they held on well with the funnel strat. Game 2, with a bit of a more aggressive draft. They have been playing this one as well, as all their carries super fed in this one.
But let's say you're the coach of the team that faces Afreeca Freecs next. I believe they have one more series this week, then they play Griffin when they come back. I know that for me, my main takeaway is, let's think of the eye test. What has been different in the struggles for Afreeca and the wins? To me, it has been, how is Keen doing? When Keen is on a champion that gets ahead and can split push, Afreeca look actually really clean. They've played this game out excellently so far. In all those games he struggled, their macro's actually been pretty poor.
And it's weird in a meta like this where everybody is taking focus away from the top lane, where there's 2 teams facing each other, where it's like when their top laner does well, we do well. Both ADD and Keen both seeming to fit that agenda.
Completely agree, but Afreeca closing out the game around his pressure a lot better than MVP was able to in game number 1. But again, I'm really throwing the bans into Keen, just like after Griffin lost, after multiple Lehens bans and a first McAllister with Nocturne up, you're like, man, banning Lehens, maybe that's the way against Griffin. So these are sort of things that teams will very quickly realize and be able to come up with counter strategies against. But it's the sort of thing that teams need to start taking advantage of. We've got many more data points. We're almost halfway through the season.
A very smooth gold graph here for Afreeca, slowly becoming more and more red. Speaking of which, the Red Dragon, the Infernal Drake coming in here for Afreeca too. That will definitely help out for the side of the Vlad, the Swain, the Jax. Going to be doing a nice, more heavy chunk of damage here.
And their flashes are up, so I think Keen just starts a split push, and eventually we see a pretty explosive engage. Aiming was able to side lane enough to be level 17 already in this game. Shen, of course, did a lot of roaming, but Aiming was able to take side lanes, and that's the small advantage that I think Vladimir has over basically any other bot lane champion, I would say. So I'm including Ziggs and Marksman and all of those together, is that you just throw Vlad even a couple levels under in a side lane against basically any mage or tank, and he can farm and be fine. He can be safe, and he has an escape that's very reliable. So you can get level leads on Vladimir and also lane assignments on Vladimir that are very difficult to do. Basically any other champion that fits that bot lane role. Now we're in a point where all their carries have items and levels, kind of waiting for the trigger to be pulled by Afreeca Freecs.
It's not the easiest slow push, but they definitely have a composition where they can dogpile underneath the turret. So speaking of which, thinking about bullying ADD once again, this is going to be top jungle versus top jungle in the top lane, trying to push on in here. I just wouldn't mind Afreeca to just group up as 5 and just pummel down a turret. They already took down the mid inhibitor. It's not going to be easy for MVP to stave off that kind of pressure.
It's one of those things where I actually think it's correct to stay with this, just because it's the right thing to learn. If you just dogpile, you could lose, and with the Jax split push, it's so hard to lose. There's really good wave clear on the side of MVP, so you fail the first part of a dive, or you start to go in and suddenly the minion wave's dead and the wrong person's taking the turret, things can turn around. Jax is in an unassailable position, 4,000 gold ahead, and no one person can handle him. So the smarter and more standard macro of just sending Keen topside and having him pressure, to me, this game is the right way to move forward.
Well, Looks like they're going to wait for the second Baron, and that's also another very smart move that you can make. You don't have to push down one lane as 5. You don't have to force in a split push without this buff. You can just use your lead that you have, which is, by the way, about 10,000 gold, and just sit on the Baron, peel off of it if they decide to fight you, and then go for the push.
They actually have 2 excellent flank wards for the Jax as well as Max. Very quickly understands the error of his way. Brings Kura over. Kura says, thank you very much. This is some nice terrain, but I will leave now.
Yeah.
He's very polite. He's Swain.
Thank you for the ride. Swain doesn't get to do that very often without his flash.
Afreeca slowly but surely looking for the right Baron play, and MVP, to their credit, using their sweeper to try to find some of the flank wards they know the Jax could potentially punish them on. They find Keen.
On top of a ward there, Keen's actually in a lot of trouble, but he does have the swing coming on in with the GA. Gonna pull in the Trundle, but look at that disintegration ray in the back line, trying to take them all out, but in the end, Yondu is gonna go down, and Kuro is incredibly strong and scary right now, so MVP is gonna leave that one and back away.
Could have been the perfect fight there for MVP. They could really not ask for better than Ian free firing with his disintegration way and no threat onto the back line. And yet Afreeca, with their gold lead, aren't going to be taken down. They're going to start the Baron. Let's see if MVP can contest.
Well, they lost their jungler, so it's the same situation as the last time. And this time MVP not even going to get close. Just going to give this one over to Afreeca. So they take the second Baron very easily. Not even a true shot barrage off cooldown. From there, Afreeca will look to push soon enough.
And maybe this time, the dive you were looking for the previous time will even be enacted. Baron buff at 36 minutes, almost superpowered, not quite 40, but close enough when it comes to scaling up in terms of stats. Keen has gone for split push build, and the Titanic Hydra rolled in to clear those waves faster than the Jax usually can. Waiting on them to close the game. They kept most of their summoners up, only flashed down on Skarner. We're gonna watch the replay. Good play from Max. Gets the very short-range Bone Skewer, gets him over the wall. They get a lot of Jax's health bar down. And for Ian, while he has to flash, it's in response to Spirits. And this is about the most Vel'Koz damage we're gonna see in a team fight this game.
Totally ripped through that back line, but good zoning here from Kuro. Even using his W to start it off and then just ulting in their face. When you get to this many items as the Swain this early on, you just have a blast. It's a lot of fun.
Scaling build from Pilot. I guess he quickly understood this game would have to be dragged late for the side of MVP. It's going towards the Seraph's Embrace. Don't know what the charges are like on his second tier. We'll find out. In this game, a lot of wave clear for MVP. And that means that if we don't see a 4-1 situation, it's going to be a lot of delay going on. It's going to be difficult to break the base. Still no inhibitor claim by the side of Afreeca, but surely coming soon.
The wave clear is still there. It's really just Ezreal and Vel'Koz. We talked about replacements for the Anivia. Vel'Koz does pretty good with that. Not exactly as good.
That's, as I said, the maximum damage you're going to see from Vel'Koz. He has no flash for his next fight, so should fall prey to maybe even Keen looking for a cheeky flash into the back line. But Afreeca bring up a minion wave, and this time they're grouped. This time Keen's with them, so I think those flash buttons are ready to be used.
They gotta just wait here. You'll notice they're not pushing. They want to have that cannon minion survive for as long as possible. This should be the moment. They're gonna get a knock on Kuro, but here comes Keen, the 3-man stun in the back line, and aiming is gonna make quick work. But the rest of them zoning out Pilot. Kuro gonna take out Yondu all by himself. And even though Pilot does not die, Afreeca having fun at this point, just playing with their food, zoning everybody out as they push in for the victory.
You knew it, I knew it. That was the time to go for the dive. That was the time that Jax was grouped with flash up. They knew that Vel'Koz had none, and man, they really killed the turrets fast.
Well, the flash stun is gonna miss, but they do get the hook here onto ADD. They get a second kill on the Pilot as well. That's gonna do it. The 2-0 victory over to Afreeca tonight.
Much better game 2 performance. We've waited a long time to see Afreeca actually retain some of the identity they carved by being our early favorites for LCK Summer. 4 match wins in a row, then some sidesteps, then a close win over Jin Air. Game 1 wasn't fantastic, but maybe we've diagnosed the issue here, because finally they find some priority for their top laner, Keen, who went over to Hong Kong and starred for the Korean national team. When he's behind, they really struggle to have the same macro plays, and they end up just kind of pulling the game along and hoping for the best. When he's ahead, everything falls into place, and it ends up being an easy close for the Afreeca Freecs.
Max is left scratching his head as the rest of MVP, once again, they were 3-3, -1 in 7th place, but now going to be 3-4, -3. As they could not find success. The top Camille this time around for ADD was very much not successful. As we said before, when ADD is not doing well, the rest of MVP tends not to as well.
Skill matchup, the Shen was able to get up there first. Crucially, the Swain was getting there before the Vel'Koz as well. And then the problems kind of all got heaped onto ADD, and around him you could, yes, see that the Jax was very, very powerful. MVP go down 2-0 in this series. That means they have gone down 2-0 to Hanwha Life Esports. And now Afreeca back-to-back. After their wins over SKT, BBQ, and Jin Air, we thought maybe there would be a clear chance for them to move into top consideration. Seems to be much more about the strength of schedule. They're better than the bottom two, but they're not good enough for top 5.
Take a look at some of the highlights. Spirit gets in. On top of that, in the Shen, you know, we talked a lot about the rotations from the mid lane, but the Shen, the amount of times they fought in the top lane and the Shen got there first before the TP just allowed them to win so many fights up here.
My favorite part of the laning phase is actually earlier than this clip, when Keen walked up and interrupted the hook shot out from the Camille and got a huge damage trade. That was really nicely done by Keen, the sort of laning thing that we miss. Focused on macro plays and the mini-map. But from there, everything fell into place. Spirit was able to get going on the Skarner in a way that some of us Skarners have struggled to do so. These all-ins from Tucson and Aiming were great to see. Aiming's Vladimir now 3-0 on the season, joining perhaps Viper as one of our best bot lane Vladimir players. Afreeca Freecs, they still stay away from the marksman, but if they play like this, no problem.
The Cats ADD once again. It was just woe is me, as this was the first time, and then there was another time in the bottom side where the Skarner got there with his ult up again. And here's what I was talking about. It's just ADD could never split push against the Jax. Afreeca just had too much map control, too much vision control. As we talked about the numbers before, you know, this was a big mistake for MVP for sure.
Yeah.
Way too far up, and they just get caught from behind.
Need Ian to be able to do damage from range, and that requires appropriate vision for the Siege. If you don't have Siege vision, you can't also be on the bottom side of the mid lane, or the right side, I should say, while your only control ward is on the top side. That ended up just making Ian susceptible. And every team fight where Ian gets popped like a balloon, that's going to be a lost team fight for MVP.
Yeah, could not protect the Vel'Koz this time around. Max pulls in the Swain, and then he's like, oh crap, wait, no. I don't want you to be anywhere near me. But at this point, Afreeca was 12,000 gold ahead and ready to win the game. Let's take a look at some game facts. Everybody's favorite. You take a look at the damage from the Ezreal, from the Vel'Koz. They had a couple of fights where they were behind and they were just free hitting with all their damage, but just wasn't enough to break through Afreeca.
Bit of that empty damage we talk about with Morgana sometimes, just happening here from Vel'Koz and Ezreal. While they were poking, while they were putting numbers up, eventually the engages happened, and whether it was the Skarner, the Jax, or even Tucson, who had a good game on the Shen, they all eventually led to titanic teamfight victories for Afreeca. Not a perfect game, but a kill and a Drake. Couple of turrets, that's all MVP had to show for game number 2.
Let's take a look at who the MVP was. It was Tucson on the Shen. He was always there. He had a couple of fantastic flash taunt engages too. Gets a little bit of a back hug there from Spirit, as the two of them will come up on stage for the MVP interview, in which we will just hang out behind the players as we always do. But I'll hand it over to Ji-sun for the translation. We'll see you in a bit.
Thank you very much. This is Ji-sun with your interpret translations, and today we're joined by Tucson and Spirit from Afreeca Freecs. Congratulations on the win. So you guys climbed up to the third place.
벌써 3위예요.
Already?
이제 위는 이제 그리핀하고 젠지밖에 없네요.
So you've got Griffin and Genji left on the first and second place.
저희가 2연패하게 되면서 많이
But after facing the second losing streak, we were kind of on a downfall. You know, our performance was really under our expectations. But picking up 2-0 victory today, yeah, I think it's a really relieving news for us.
달랐어요. 그래서 2세트는 좀 여유를 찾는 모습이었는데.
So you guys seem a little bit confident today. So how was the second set?
사실 2세트 같은 경우에는 좀더
So for the game 2, we were able to end the game earlier. So yeah, I think we made a little mistake over there.
이긴 경기도 있었습니다만 그때도 우리 경기력 계속 약간 뭐라 할까?
Yeah, I guess you guys are kind of complaining about your own performance, even though you guys picked up the win.
두 선수를 비롯한 아프리카 프릭스의 선수들도
So all the players seem to be having a lot of expectations on yourselves.
일단 저는 제 개인 기량이 많이
Well, I personally think that my own performance is not that like my best potential right now.
그 다음에는 이제 팀 단위로
In addition, you know, as a team, I think we are kind of lacking in teamwork a little bit. So yeah, we should kind of repair on that.
지난번에 MVP는 따지는 못했습니다만 저희가 정말 감동했었던 장면이
Well,
있었다고 말씀해 주셨잖아요.
There's a really the highlight we want to say in the previous match.
쉬운 거예요?
저도 몰랐어요.
Was that easy?
몰랐어요?
네, 몰랐습니다.
Well, I actually wasn't really aware of that at that moment.
뭔 소리를 들었는데
네.
Well, I heard the sound effect,
제 눈에는 못 본 거예요.
but I didn't really know that Skarno. I ignored the Skarno's ult at that moment.
우리 식결에 한 거네요? 그 장면 사실 저희가 준비해 왔었거든요.
So we prepared the clip for it.
저희가 이날을 위해서 모아놨어요. 요거잖아요. 이거 뒤에 이거 모아놨었거든요. 이 장면인데.
At that moment,
이거 노린 거네요.
갑자기?
well, I actually intended that.
이거 노린 거 맞아요?
아니죠. 네.
I'm just joking. Yeah, I was really lucky.
알겠습니다. 사실 저 장면 나왔을 때는 탄성도 많이 나오고 그만큼 스피릿 선수가 보여줬던 운영.
So I guess your performance is fairly okay so far, but so moving on to the games and Tusin.
굉장한 경기 전투 여는 장면.
You have been showing great performance throughout the spring split, and so you have a lot of fans out here, including the global casters and Korean casters here, especially about your engagement in team fights.
여름에서도 그걸 좀 기대하는 분들이 많을 것
So,
같은데 팀 내에서 연습장에서도 잘 풀리고 있어요?
How's your practice going nowadays?
그때가 되면 나온다고 생각하고 때문에
You know, I'm always ready to make my super plays here.
챔피언이 쉔이라서 약간 그런 부분
Well, today I played Shen as a support, so I couldn't show my great engagement today. But yeah, maybe you can check it out when I'm playing some different kind of support champs. And today we have your family out here to support you.
저한테 말을 안 하고 왔는데
They actually didn't tell me, so I came here and find out. So I'm a little bit surprised.
그냥 오신 거예요, 그냥 편하게?
Yeah, I just came here to support him.
안녕하세요.
Hi, Tusin's mom. Hi.
잠깐만, 오셨는데 또 이게 목소리 안 들 수가
Then let's have a talk with Tusin's mother right here.
어머니 안녕하세요, 어머니.
Hi.
고우신데.
Nice to see you.
오시면 안 돼요? 이거 한번 뵈야죠, 여기까지 왔는데. 네?
Hello.
가까이는 안 와요. 우리 가까이는 안 해. 우리가 멀리 보내드릴게요. 감독님 약간.
Well, I'm a little bit camera shy, so.
오늘 어떻게 얘기도 안 하고 오셨어요?
Why didn't you tell Tusin?
아이들이 긴장할까 봐.
Well, I didn't want him to get nervous, so I kept it as a secret.
투신 선수가 굉장히 오늘 좀 편안한 표정으로 경기를
Well, thanks to you, I think Tusin has been performing really well.
사실은 저는 오늘 쿠로가 MVP를 탄
I thought Kuro could have got the MVP because yesterday was Kuro's mother's birthday, so
이야기를 할 줄 알았는데 오늘
we kind of want him to be on the MVP interview and say happy birthday, mothers. But sadly, my son got the MVP, so
어머니 생일 축하드립니다.
well, happy birthday, Kuro's mom. We love you.
한 말씀 더 여쭤볼게요. 워낙 또 이렇게 부모님들이 오셨을 때 그 선수들의 힘을 잘 받다 보니까 오늘도 이렇게
So,
승리까지 좀 연결됐었는데
Today, Afreeca Freecs picked up the victory. So, any message for your son?
아들 잘하고 있고
Well, I think you're doing really great,
발전할 거야.
and I'm sure that you're gonna keep improving. So, I'm always here supporting you.
좀 이야기를 나눠봤습니다. 어머니 오늘 화면 잘 나오셨어요, 세 분 모두. 네, 아름다우셨습니다.
You look really pretty on camera today, and thank you for having interview with us today.
분위기가 이만큼
So back to the
좋습니다.
games.
아프리카 프릭스가 전반적으로 분위기가 굉장히 좋아요.
I guess Afreeca Freecs is in a really great mood,
이상하지 않을 정도로 승기를 계속
and you guys are on the third place. So,
나눠볼게요. 1세트 초반은
speaking of first game, Keen kinda had hard time, you know.
원래 그런 친구가 아닌데 오늘따라 형
Well,
긴장돼 이러는
he
거예요.
said that he is nervous before going into the games.
그냥 하는 말이겠거니 했는데 진짜 못하더라고요.
And he did underperform in the games, so
그래도 중간에
I was a little bit surprised. But yeah, he kept his mentality strong, so we were able to end the game.
분위기들이 많이 올라왔었는데 그 이후에 바텀 2차에서 좀 한타가 또 벌어지고 막 이런 장면들이
And there
좀
was a team
있었거든요.
fight at the tier 2nd turret in the bot lane.
일단은 통신 선수도
1세트 같은 경우 일단
Well, in the first
1세트
set,
말씀하시는 거죠?
예, 예.
1세트 사실 클레이드랑 다리우스가 라인전을 참잘
Well, the top laners, they have been facing each other in the laning phase, but you know, I was playing Shen on my side, so I can support my other players with my ult. So I told them to just stay until I reach my 6th level, but I saw Keen dying out, so I was really sad. But I said it's okay, but he then died another time, so I was really sad. And Keen actually told me that I can actually win Clad on top lane. So yeah, we just tried to cheer him up that it's all okay.
뭐 조금은 약간 혼란스러웠어요, 양팀 모두.
Yeah, it was a very intense game for both teams.
언제 승기를 잡았다고 생각했어요. 사실
Then when was the moment that you guys picked up the momentum back to your side?
근데 경기 흐름은 아프리카 계속 유지를 하고 있었으니까 그 흐름에 대해서는 언제 또 감이 잡았었어요?
저는 뱀픽 끝나자마자 이겼다 생각을 했는데
Well, after the pick and bans, I was sure that we won the game, but didn't expect Keen to be the problem.
서인이 형이 너무 잘해줘가지고
But Kuro kind of made a super play in bot lane, so we picked up a lot of kills there and we turned the tables around.
그래서 뭐랄까 진다라는 느낌이었어요. 이 정도
And you guys tried Baron for several times in the first game.
오 정확해요.
아 그래요?
저희가 딱 그런 느낌으로
But our
했거든요.
intention was to kind of call MVPs, and we're gonna see how damage we can deal.
어울린 거예요. 그런 느낌이라서 약간 한번 여쭤본 그런 장면이 있었습니다. 그래서 1세트는 잘 끝내는 장면이 있었는데
So you guys ended up picking up the victory.
질문이 엄청 들어왔던 게요.
And we have a question from the fans,
정글을 도는데
because you have been going to the jungle with your AD carry. This is kind of new strategy that kind of came up in the current meta.
상황이 달랐단 말이에요. 1세트 포지션이 좀 다르다 보니까.
네네.
그러면 원래 대부분 정글 포지션
Then
아닌 선수는 좀
who
어려웠지
kind
않나요?
of decides the jungle routes and who feel more comfortable in jungle?
옆에서 켜주고 네.
Well, because I am the professional jungle player, I give a lot of advice to the players. Like, this is time to camp the Scuttle crowd, it's time to get the buff.
선수들도 기쁜 마음으로 이제 이 인터뷰를 좀 지켜보는 장면이 있었어요. 네.
And there are Afreeca Freecs watching the interview here.
생신 축하드려요, 프로.
Happy birthday to your mother, Kuro.
네, 그런 장면이 있었어요. 그럼 2세트로 좀 더 한번 넘어가 볼까요?
Moving on to game 2.
2세트는 바위개를 이제 기인한테 막 주면서
So you
넘어간
kind
장면이
of gave the
있었어요. 그거
crab
어떤
to
의미로
Keen.
자꾸 달래요. 자기 좀.
Well, he asked for it.
저도 먹고 싶었는데 달래서 줬죠.
I actually wanted it, but he told me to give the crab, so I just let him have it.
뭐 이런 느낌이 아니라 그냥 달라고 해서 준 거였어요.
형 나 먹고 클게 나좀
He said, yeah, I need more items, I need more gold, so I just told him to, yeah, just take the crab. It's all yours.
아쉬운 장면이
아
있습니다.
그렇죠. 1세트 때 잘 못했으니까 미안한 마음.
Maybe, yeah, he was feeling sorry for underperforming in the first game, so yeah, he was trying to build many items, and he was trying to be stronger in the second game.
생각을 좀 하셨대요. 뭐 전반적으로 그 느낌 자체가 안 싸고 그냥 운영하면 우리가 그냥 이길 거야. 나는
Well, the second game seemed like you guys were kind of focusing on rotations and macros rather than team fights.
좀 많이 있었거든요. 어떻습니까? 이 세트 좀 기억나는 장면이
So
있을까요?
how was the game 2?
사실 제가 열 수 있으면은 웬만하면 저희 이제 지휘 하에 이제 열리는 편인데
Well, I always open the team fight when I see the angle coming, but you know, playing Shen, it's kind of hard to do so. I get more passive, you know.
웬만하면 다 열었던 것 같아요. 뭐 예를 들어
But I tried to open team fight if I get the chances in the game 2.
그래서는 제가 할 수 있었던 플레이는 최선을 다했던 것
So
같습니다.
I think I was fully doing my role today.
선수 하이라이트.
So let's check out the clips.
이거 명품이에요.
Great initiation, right?
저게 맞네 근데.
연습을 얼마나 하는데
Well, you know, I've been preparing Shen for a long time, so I was able to land my taunt over there.
사실 저거를 계속 라인전부터 내내 하고 싶었는데 이즈 하는 선수가 계속 사를 잘
Well, I wanted to try that in the laning phase, but Ezreal was really playing it safe, so I couldn't really make it happen. But I was lucky to get the chance over there.
제외하고는 나머지는 아프리카 프릭스가 경기를 끝까지 운영하는 장면이 있었습니다. 굉장히 인상 깊었습니다. 자, 그래가지고 저희가 좀 준비한 게 있어요. 제가
So we have prepared something for you guys.
평소에 굉장히 좋아하는
In the
음식이더라고요.
previous interview, Tusin, you said your favorite food is Your favorite food is
이상형
spicy
어떻게
chicken,
해가지고
maybe?
거 기억나요?
알죠.
그때 뭐가 나왔는지 기억나요?
치킨이요?
아 그래가지고 저희가
So we prepared a present for Tusin.
몇 마리예요?
How many chickens are there in the box?
준비를 했어요. 이게 다 같이 먹어야 되니까 여세요 괜찮아요. 선물이니까.
It's kind of different present.
양념치킨을 좋아한다는
This is a spicy chicken flavor cup noodles.
받을 수 없어가지고 양념치킨 맛. 요 정도로. 요거를 선수 10명 다.
So there are 10 people in Afreeca Freecs, so we prepared a lot of cup noodles for you guys.
하나 부족해요?
13개여야 되는데 12개네요.
Well, I see 12s here, but we actually have 13 people in our team, so
기인 못 먹어요?
I'm not gonna give one to Keen.
오케이.
기인은 안타까운 2층의 정면이 좀 잡혔었네요. 이렇게 해가지고 오늘 뭐 두신 선수 좀 얘기 좀 들어봤습니다. 오늘 1세트, 2세트 모두 이제 승리를 따내면서 경기를
So wrapping up.
특히 이제 스피릿 선수가 잘하면 잘할수록 특히
Spirit.
클래식한 팬들이 아주 그냥 열광을
You know,
하고 있습니다. 예전부터
there are a lot of fans out here supporting for you.
함께해주신 팬들도
So is there any last message for your fans?
함께하시는 오랜 팬 여러분을 위해서 한 말씀 먼저 부탁드릴까요?
제가 좀 프로 생활을 생각보다 많이 오래 했더라고요.
Yeah, I have
그런데
been
그 처음부터
in this
계속
field for
응원해주신
quite a long
팬분들
time,
정말
so thank you for
감사드리고요.
supporting me throughout the long
앞으로
time
진짜
with me.
달려만큼 더 가고 싶으니까
And you know, I'm gonna keep racing in the LCK, so keep supporting me, please. Thank you.
자, 그래서 그 투신 선수는 오늘 또 어머니 오셨잖아요.
And Tusin,
또 어머니가 오셨고
your mother came here to support you, and a lot of fans are out here.
화면이 잘 나오네. 이렇게 지금 바라보고 주시는데 어머니가 한 말씀.
So is there any message for your mom?
말하고 왔으면 참 좋았을 텐데.
Well, if he told me beforehand, that would be better.
네. 늘 젊게 사는 것 같아서.
But you know, having her out here is really always happy. But I always not kind of express myself. But I always feel so thankful for her.
그래. 나도.
And I love you, mom.
말씀하셨는데 나더라고. 아들이 보통 약간 이거 무뚝뚝하니까 하지만 사랑은 충분히 느낄 수 있었던 것 같습니다. 자, 이제 다음 경기가 정말
So your next opponent
경기가 기다리고 있습니다. 바로
will be
젠지와의
Genji
경기예요.
Esports.
아까 말씀드린 것처럼 이제 상위권에 남아 있는 팀이
And they are in the second rank in LCK.
양 팀에 대한 생각도 많이
So
하실
it's
것
gonna
같은데
be a very
어떻습니까,
intense
젠지?
series.
저희가 남은 일정이 이제 젠지 그리핀 남았잖아요.
So we have Genji and Griffin left,
저희 위에 있잖아요.
and they are on the higher ranks right now.
있단 말이죠.
But if we perform well, we're gonna take them down. So I want them to be ready.
미소 속에서 강력한 임팩트가 좀 숨어 있었습니다. 투신 선수 끝으로 쿠로 선수 어머니에게
And Tusin, is there any message for Kuro's mom out here?
갑자기요? 네, 갑자기요.
서영이 형 어머니 제가 서영이 형 늘 잘 보필하고 있고요.
Well, I'm always taking good care of Kuro.
늘 건강하셨으면 좋겠습니다.
And yeah, thank you for being here. And happy birthday to you.
청에 들어봤습니다. 자, 오늘 이렇게 해서 아프리카 프릭스 2대0으로 승리를 따내면서 또 하나의
So this will be the end of the interview with Spirit and Tusin from Afreeca Freecs. And I will pass it back to our casters. Thank you.
멋진 장면 기대하면서 여기까지 인터뷰 마치겠습니다. 오늘 멋진 경기를 펼친 아프리카 프릭스 선수에게 다시 한번 큰 박수 부탁드리겠습니다.
감사합니다.
You know, when she said there were so many chickens in the box, I was really curious to see how many, but we actually just got debated by a bunch of ramen. I don't know about that, Papa.
They mentioned food presents, and I needed to see what was going on. Still, you know, we're not going to get any ramen. There's too many players in the Afreeca Freecs. They got to get fed. And some of them don't even get to play, Valdez.
Yeah, and apparently Keen's not getting fed, as he won't be given any of them. Afreeca move up to third place after this win. They scoot ahead of both Hanwha and Kingzone. At the +6 indicator 5 and 2, they will be playing Genji next, which is a very crucial match. And that will be coming on Sunday, which will actually be the next time we're casting after tonight, Papa. We do have one more match to finish off the night, though. It would be Genji versus the Jin Air Green Wings. Jin Air still looking for their first win up against one of the strongest teams here in the LCK. Needless to say, should be pretty one-sided, but we're always fans of upsets, Papa.
And also, we should let the fans know that we finished a little bit early, so about 40 minutes till we'll be able to get into our second series. While Genji come in big favorites, just like Afreeca. Didn't look great in their last series, so looking for Genji to have kind of a heroic performance, actually show that they can deserve the high standings they find themselves in, or for Jin Air. We're waiting for the Glad plane. We saw almost deciding of. It was so close for Jin Air in their last series. Can it come this time? We'll have to see.
You can tell they're trying really hard. You know, scrimming a lot, just trying their best to get one win here in the LCK. But so far, it's just like they and BBQ are stuck in a hole. together and might be headed towards relegations. We're not done with round 1 just yet, so
Getting close.
there is still time, but as you mentioned, we're getting pretty close, and it's not looking good for Jin Air, but tonight, who knows what can happen.
We're hoping for some action. More 8-12. It's going to be fun.
It should be fun, so we'll be joining you guys in about 40 minutes exactly. So we will see you then. Until then, get a snack. We'll see you in a bit.
I see you always wanna go somewhere to waste your golden soul. I see the smile you never show. Oh no.
It's been many days, many ways misled, knowing that I'm tiptoeing on both sides of the fence, trying to figure it out, but I'm living in doubt. So scared one day that your grace might run out, cause I'm so far from perfect, so close to worthless, feeling no good for worship, trying to understand this life that you purchased. Am I just a man destined for death, or do I deserve it? You died for my sins and that's the verdict. You carried out God's true will and purpose with urgency for the sake of love, forgiveness and eternity. Your grace is enough. I got so many questions, so many things to change. I'm calling out, but sometimes you're far away. I get discouraged and seem to always fall flat, but that's when you pick me up and bring me back.